Excellent. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world that you're watching us. It's time to come alive once more. Excited. We have so many interesting, lively, inspiring people joining us, a couple of special guests. But before we get into the heart of things, today I wanted to make sure I introduce myself to those that are here hearing us for the first time. My name is Valerie Hope. I am an executive coach and a speaker, and I'm so committed to helping people be more conscious, to be more connected, and be more creative in how we live life. That's why I call this Time to Come Alive coaching session. We have a couple of things that I'm going to ask you all to do. If you haven't done this already, I invite you to share with your friends on any social media platforms that you're on this call. You can send them the link www.timetocomealive.com so that they can join us live, or you might want to share the recording afterwards. Okay. So I invite you now, if you have an opportunity, you might even check in and say that you're on Time to Come Alive and just use that as the hash that will be able to follow you, and people will see that what you're up to today. Also, I have a quiz that I invite those of you who are interested in learning more about your own mindset, about where you are in your path to come alive. And the quiz is free. It's on www.bringjoytolife.com, bringjoytolife.com. And it essentially will tell you where you are on that path, how close or how far you might be from living the life that you love. Then at the end of the quiz, you have the opportunity to set a time to speak with me to debrief your quiz. All right, so I look forward to seeing some of you take that on. Okay, now without further ado, today we have a very special session. This week, as you know, most of the Western world anyway, we celebrate Valentine's Day. And for the most part, Valentine's Day tends to be focused on the romantic, especially here in the US or North America. I know where I'm from in Latin America, we actually call this the Dia de la Amistad, which is the day of friendship. So romantic love is really about brotherly love, is about loving your friends and your neighbors, right? Day of friendship. And I thought taking a look at love from a different perspective would be just the way for us to come alive on our session today. So I have two very special guests, and I'll be introducing them in just a moment. We have, as we always start off our sessions with a meditation. We actually have a guest that will be doing our meditation today, and that guest is Sandra Monogue. Sandra is actually a spiritual storyteller, and I want to make sure that I give you good context for how I know Sandy. I call her Sandy, but she goes by Sandra to the public. Sandy and I we attend the same church. We met about 4 years ago, I think, right, Sandy? 4 years or so. Yes, and what's been interesting is that we've had the opportunity to really deepen our friendship in the last few years. What I learned about her, first of all, really caught my attention because she did some meditation at our church. And I found that was really fascinating how she went about doing it. The creativity that she infused her meditation with was really astounding. I'd never heard anything quite like it. And then, although this show isn't necessarily meant to be spiritual or focused necessarily on the spiritual, I just couldn't help myself as we were talking about love to bring this in. And Sandy also is one of the most powerful prayer warriors that I've met. She can actually paint a picture with her words, any words, whether we're just having a conversation over coffee or she is meditating or she's praying for you. So I thought today would be a wonderful way to start our day with meditation from Sandy. So Sandy, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let us know what you need us to do, and we're open to listening.
I'd like everyone to close their eyes and just take a deep breath. For this is a Valentine's prayer. allow your energy to flow from your head to your heart. That place where love resides. That place where God resides. Feel the light of God burning brightly in your heart. Feel this light and love starting to move. Feel the energy expanding. Feel the love growing. The energy shooting into arrows of crystal white light. These crystal spears have a red heart on their end. God's heart. Your heart. One. The crystal spears start moving out of your heart, 360 degrees from your center. As they move out, they start to cover the earth, all people, the ground, the oceans and the rivers, buildings, trees, birds, animals, cars, planes in the air. The earth starts to become white with tiny red hearts all over it. Everything on earth feels this pureness, this pure love. Now there is nothing but light and love and red hearts all over the earth. God's light and love, your light and love. Be a blessing this Valentine's. Love with all your heart and soul. And so it is. Amen.
Ooh.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day. That was beautiful. Oh, wow. Okay. Sandy, thank you so much. I have to admit that there are moments where I was like, oh, I know this isn't really like a spiritual thing. And what if people on the call are not Christian or they don't believe in God or some whatever? But I also felt so comforted by what you shared. And I do think that it will, the red heart and the light that's now covering the earth will take care of all of that.
Okay.
It will. So thank you. So for anyone.
Thank you, Valerie.
Of course. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you share that with us. If anyone would like to have Sandy's spiritual prayer, spiritual storytelling prayer, please shoot me an email. You can send your emails to valerie@valeriehope.com, and I'll be happy to share her contact information with you. She and I have probably once a week had a conversation where she does, some wonderful storytelling prayer for me, and it's been absolutely transformational. So I so appreciate you, Sandy, and the gift that you have and how willingly and openly you're sharing that with us today.
I appreciate you and all your gifts.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to say before we move on to the next piece of our session today?
No, I can't wait to hear Gail.
Me neither. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Sandy. Okay. Now that we have that wonderful start, couldn't have just one guest. We had to have two. So today, also invited a wonderful friend of mine. Her name is Gail Blair. Now, Gail, she and I met also about 4 years ago. Four years apparently was a magic number for me. and Gail, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we met at it was a New Year's party, a New Year's potluck. And I remember we're all sitting at the same table and everyone was talking at the same time. So I think at some point or another, we probably started chatting. And I asked, so what do you do? Or something to that effect. And you mentioned that you're an intuitive chef. And when you said this, I remember thinking to myself, okay, what in the world is that? And as we started talking about it, I have to admit, there were parts of me that were so fascinated about all the things that you were sharing and how you've evolved this talent, this gift that you brought to life. And at the same time, I was pretty skeptical too, because I'd never heard anything quite like it. I'm sure you're used to this from other people. And so over the years, as we've gotten to know each other, I've just really seen that light of yours continue to expand, and to the point where you and I worked together very closely, maybe about a year or 2 years ago on some things. And one of the reasons that I thought it was so crucial to introduce Gail Blair to all of you is because you taught me so much about what it was to honor my own body through my health, through my nutrition, through just how I allowed myself to listen to what my body was telling me from a whole different perspective. And that was a really important piece of love that we don't talk about very often during this time of year. So I wanted to invite you to share that and your discoveries and inspire other people to do the same. So welcome to our program today.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm going to start by saying that I've been single for almost 37 years, so I don't have a Valentine, and I'm my Valentine. This is very appropriate today. End of 2011, I had an awakening. This happens a lot with people who had near-death experiences. And I would say that I had a near-death experience, but it wasn't, what you would normally think of as a near-death experience. I was suicidal. And so it was like, I was just dog tired. I was just tired of doing everything by myself and tired of being alone and all that. So I hit that rock bottom little place. And, of course, Richard Rohr has a book called Falling Up. And I fell up, right? And so when I woke up, and it's the journey since then, my intuitive gifts woke up. I started working my passion, which is food. And when I started working my passion with Food Revelation is when all this really started kicking in. So, I tell people, if you want to walk into your purpose, just start working your passion, start creating. Because that's what happened to me. I just walked right into it. And it's expanded, but yeah, it started there.
So take us back. So Gail, that's a pretty big leap, right? From being at the bottom, and then you mentioned a book, and then now you're using your gift and you're working your passion. So what exactly transformed? What did you see that you didn't see before that had you decide that up was the way to go?
Well, I didn't see before that I really, that I had a purpose. I didn't see before that my purpose was to help people, really. It got me out of myself completely. I realized I wasn't a body. I'm in a body. I'm in this wonderful body that lets me experience and life and communicate, with spirit. But that's not, doesn't even come close to you can, what I am is undefinable. What you are is undefinable. That's what became so clear. Is that we're so expensive.
How did that become clear? What happened?
Because I got out of body, during this. I had a 4-day period of hyper awareness. And during that period, I could see the energy of everything, the color of the energy of everything. I realized that we had, I could see the aura, call it the aura of everything. Everything has an energy field. It was really overwhelming. Like I could see all the connection. The grass on the ground looked like a gold filigree. I could see how it was all connected. And I realized that all this energy is connected. It's trying to describe it is to describe the undescribable. I don't even try, but it was, I got out of my body, and I realized with clients, we hear the word ungrounded all the time, but what does that really, really mean? Mm-hmm. And what it really means is that your energetic body is coming out of your physical body, literally. And so when that happens to you and you realize what it is, it becomes really clear that you're not just a body, which is life-changing.
So that was a realization that you had, is that all of a sudden, I'm not just this body.
Right.
What impact did that have on that feeling of loneliness that you spoke of, where you were suicidal?
Well, one of the first things that happened when I woke up is I realized I had guidance. And, I started getting this pop in my left ear, and you know all about that. But this is my guidance, my spiritual guides getting my attention. And it happened in that 4-day period. If it happened outside of that 4-day period, I probably would have run to the doctor. But within that 4-day period, I knew that somebody was trying to get my attention. And now it's still my favorite way to have, for my door to be knocked on, because it makes me really aware I'm not alone. So that was big too, is this realization that, because that was my whole reason I was feeling so suicidal, is that I was feeling so alone. So I realized, oh my God, I'm not alone. And I get to realize that every day. I mean, like if I'm sitting in here and somebody's at my front door and I need to answer it, my guys will pop my ear. If I make a mistake on my charts, I'll get an ear pop. So, I get reminded all the time that I'm not alone. And the thing is everybody is getting guidance, not hearing it because they're got too much going. Well, actually, I didn't hear it in my head for a lot of years. I just had to get the knock and then figure out what it is you're trying to tell me, right? And now I get the message in my head because my head is not so busy anymore.
Well, that's, I think, a really interesting piece, because it's probably the most difficult part about coming to life is being cognizant, right? Being conscious of what those, whether the pop, or I call them nudges, right? I get goosebumps. Sometimes I feel like a warm flush. I mean, all things I'm very...
What are you telling me? What are you telling me?
But how does one, I mean, look, we're probably talking to an audience of people who may not be familiar with that, or to have that depth of consciousness. So how, and what do you pay attention to let you know that there's something out there, there's something beyond your physical self? Like, what do you pay attention to?
What do you mean, what do I pay attention to?
Yeah, so how would one, for example, know that there's a pop or that there's a nudge?
Oh, okay, I get you. Well, one of the things I realized is that, and you know this very well, and this we only have so much time, but the body's a messenger. The body is a conduit to source. As a matter of fact, it's probably the closest. It is the closest thing to source, because it's not judging anything, right? It's just, your body is just a responder. And so the messages, if your mind is busy, your messages are going to come through your body first. If you're defined by the body, they're going to come through the body first. So one of the things I realized is that, and by the way, this all happened organically for me. It wasn't a learned thing. It was a revealed thing. And what I realized pretty short, after a short period of time, that if I was feeling things on my left side of the body, then that's my receiving end. And if I'm feeling, because my pop was coming on the left side, so I'm receiving, right? So I made that connection. And then if something's happening on the right side of the body, then that's my releasing side. So I automatically knew that if I'm feeling discomfort on one side or the other, then at least I know that's my first clue, right? Okay, well, I'm not allowing something, I'm not receiving something, or I'm not releasing something. And so then you can go, and Louise Hayes, she was the queen of this, obviously. But then you can tune into, well, where am I feeling this? And that's telling, right? You're probably not releasing something that's allowing you to step forward, right? So, it's very logical. If we can just, get out of our head and just, think logically, it's going to be simple. I think Einstein says that, if the answer is simple, it's probably of God, or he said something like that. And that's true. So that, we tend to complicate things. So that's, it's easy when you just get out of your head.
It really is. What's funny? I had an experience yesterday. I was supposed to be going to an appointment, and I scheduled it weeks ago. And I remember waking up in the morning and going, this is a really good day for me to go. So then I started asking the person I had that appointment with, I'm like, asking some questions. I'm like, hey, how about this? How about that? And it all of a sudden became very complicated for me to make this appointment. I don't know why. It didn't happen weeks ago when I made it. I remember as I was texting back and forth, I just started noticing, I'm like, what's all this drama about? It's just an appointment. I could either go or not go.
Right.
And so I remember I just called her and I said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make it today. I'm not sure what we need to have all this drama about. It's pretty simple.
We like to tell stories. Our ego likes to make up stories and have these conversations in our head, right? That's what we like to do. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I've also learned over the years, as like I said, even just working with you, just being more mindful of whatever energy is flowing through my body at the moment of the drama. So I can see that I was like, I'm making up this drama myself.
Right. But the thing is where are you feeling it? That's important. Where are you feeling it? So, if you're trying to make a decision with something, one of the ways you can discern it, even before you start really getting clear, guidance, because you will eventually, as you get more quiet in your mind, there's more room, you can hear this, right? Mm-hmm. You've got all this chatter going on, you're not going to hear it. But there's another way that I realized is that I can breathe on it. And so if I take a breath, if I'm trying to make a decision, then I breathe on my choices. So I take one choice in my mind and I take a deep breath. If I can take a clear, deep breath all the way down to my feet and nothing hitches up, then that's probably a good answer. That's a good choice. If I feel a hitch somewhere, then there's probably something about that choice is not in alignment with highest best, right? So it's like, where is it hitching? Is it hitching here? Is it hitching here in your heart? It's hitching in your throat. It probably has something to do with your voice, see? Something's, something about this choice is not in alignment with your truth, your voice. So anyway, that's just a short introduction on discernment. How can you receive discernment, through the body?
That's brilliant. I've not thought about that, but you're right. Because I do remember after making the decision, there was so much peace. Really wasn't that much drama about the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's another way you can know if you got the right answer, because you can go,
yeah.
It goes out of your head too.
Yes.
See, you quit thinking about it.
Yeah.
If you keep thinking about something, it's because I call that, chronic illness is a chronic knocking on your door. It's a message, right? Same thing with your thinking. If you have chronic thinking, then that's a message on your door too, that something's out of alignment.
Yes. Oh, I love that. You said something, we were talking earlier, and it was something that you said you'd receive a message about how the more you love yourself, the less willing you are to tolerate pain. Can you?
Yeah, and it's really funny because I got that about you know, 2014 seems to be a magical year, right? So this message came through. I get messages a lot, and, you know, I just wake up with them is what happens, and I come and I write them down. And this message was Gail, the more you fall in love with yourself, the more intolerant you will of causing pain to yourself. And what was the rest of it? Just as you would be intolerant of pain or suffering coming to any loved one, right? And so that was a big aha for me. It's like, okay, well, why am I causing pain to myself? And the reason is because there's a part of myself that doesn't believe that I deserve love, or I wouldn't be doing that, right? So then my search became uncover the pieces and bring them back into wholeness. Uncover the pieces that I've exiled and bring them back into wholeness. And that's been for me, that's been huge. That's been probably the biggest piece of my journey. Well, I think it's the biggest piece of anybody's journey, really. Is coming back into the wholeness of life.
So it might be helpful, especially for those who are not familiar with some of the terminology you're using. Can you give an example of where people might be tolerating pain and that shows up as a lack of love? Maybe something that you experience or people that you've worked with in the past. Can you give an example?
Help me, Spirit. Give me a good example. Okay, this is really good. I'm writing a blog right now. It's a series, and it's called Healing the Relationship with Food. And what I've realized through hundreds and hundreds of sessions is when people have a relationship, I don't like to use the word bad, but when they have a relationship with food that's not healthful, okay, and it's chronic, right, then that has to do with, it always has to do at some level with nurturing. It has to do with lack of nurturing. It has to do with lack of nurturing of love, right? And so a lot of times it goes back to the mother. Most of the time it does. There's something about that relationship that was with the mother. And remember, this is a belief that a child's mind made based on an experience as a child, right? So when we look at it through adult eyes, it may even look really silly. But there's things that happen when we were children, and we form our belief systems based on those, right? So if you felt unnurtured as a child because of the experience, then that could show up in a skewed sense of, basically it can show up as an eating disorder, for instance. In other words, you want to comfort yourself, you want to nurture yourself because you felt that was lacking, and that's the way you do it, right?
I do have an attachment to potato chips, so I wonder, Mom, this isn't feedback for you, but
it's 3 years old, right? It's like kind of time to change your mind, right?
Yeah.
So, in my sessions, I can lead you to the age where it happened, and then you can see it, right? And then when you see it, it's in the light now, so it can't hide anymore. Now, you may have habits around it that you'll have to break, but the thing is, as soon as you see it, you'll be aware of it every time that habit comes up. Whereas before, it was just running it was running in the background. Once it's in the light, it can't drag you around anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are some of those common places or those common pain points that you hear about most from your clients?
It almost always goes to self-worth and self-love. So, and all that really boils down to is we've just forgotten who we are, right? But it's always, almost every client session that I do that's not just about, tweaking food. There's a lot here lately, over the last couple of years, there's a lot of energy work involved. So like I said, this has evolved and expanded. In the beginning, it was just about food. And now, what's come in is that you have to deal with the emotional, the energetic. And of course, you have to support the physical body. But if you don't deal with the energetic root of something, then it will keep resurfacing because spirit doesn't give up on us. So it's going to keep knocking on your door until you open the door, right? And so you want to get to that. And that is always connected to self-love, always. So this is a very appropriate topic that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before I open up the lines for those that are listening to ask questions and engage with us, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about where we could find information. You mentioned the blog. You obviously, you work with people one-on-one and groups. So can you share a little bit about where people could find you?
Yeah, you can find me at foodrevelation.com. That's the website. You can find me at Food Revelation on Facebook. You can also find me at the Evolution of Free Health on Facebook. And this is the name of the series of books, because I realize that, as we heal our sense of separation and we fall back in love with ourselves, that everything heals. The physical body, everything heals. So it's the Evolution of Free Health. Health is free and natural. Chronic disease is not. It's just a message. And we can open the door and we can get the message and we can heal.
Oh, phenomenal. Good stuff. Anything else that you want to add before?
No, I don't think so. I think I said enough. I usually do.
Good. All right, so for the rest of you, if you have
enough. Yeah.
Sorry?
I said I usually say more than enough. Yes.
It's all good things. All good things. So for those of you who are listening or watching, if you're on the phone, you feel free to hit *6 to unmute yourself so you can ask your question. If there are multiple people, likely are, please hit *9. Or if you're on your computer, you can hit the raise your hand icon so that I can call on you as well. That way we can make sure that we get all your questions answered. So any questions or comments for Gail or Sandy while she's still with us? I know she's going to jump off the phone in a bit, but any questions for us? Please unmute yourself and ask or raise your hand. And I have a question here on the chat, actually, from Elaine. It says, so the right-sided illness symptoms, she's in the throes of a right-sided upper molar infection requiring a clean out and root canal. She had the clean out done yesterday. Could there be a deeper meaning?
There's always a deeper meaning. There's always an energetic reason for, and you know what, the meaning could be too, that it is, you're doing something physically that's out of alignment. So when I say there's a deeper meaning, it doesn't necessarily have to be this real deep emotional thing. It could be something that you're doing physically that's not supporting your health, right? So there's always a meaning. But if you're having chronic situations, then that's your sign that there's an energetic, emotional, deeper meaning. So it's
categories.
Okay, it's in the mouth, right? So let's be real logical about it. Why is it in the mouth? Probably has something to do with you speaking your truth or not speaking your truth. It's on the right side. So that means that there's something that you're not releasing around that. So is there something hanging you up on keeping you from speaking that it's time for you to let go of? Is it time to clean all that out? You're having a root canal, you're having to clean all that out. And with that being said, there's other ways to deal with this too. If you want to get with me, you can send me a message at foodrevelation.com, because there's other ways to do this. There's ways to do it that are very simple and easy and effective.
Elaine, anything else you need to add to that? I see that you raised your hand.
Hello there. Earlier in February, it was my birthday. And so, as you're hitting another milestone on the life journey,
Right.
Lots of things come up. And I know for myself, I'm at a deeper level of, I'll call it spiritual surrender.
Mm-hmm.
You could say I've been consciously on my spiritual path for the last 30 years. And actually on my birthday weekend, I attended an online spiritual retreat where the theme was littleness versus magnitude. And so I know there's a lot that I'm really exploring about the whole magnitude thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I know it's not magnitude of the ego. It's not even magnitude of what it looks like you're doing out in the world that necessarily looks big or small, because sometimes I know our powerful work can come through things that are kind of quiet and kind of private, but the consciousness that they come from is so big that they actually do have big impact. So I could say I'm dealing with some deep stuff, and I'm almost happy that I have this downtime, because it's like I'm giving myself permission to just listen a lot closer.
Mm-hmm. Spirit will do that too. Spirit will give you downtime when it's time for you to get something or to get finished with something. I think you already know, I think you already know that you've got a message and it's time to, I don't know if you got some self-talk going on about that you need to release. That's one of the things that's coming to my mind right now. You have some things to
I
say.
sure know my patterns of self-talk.
Right.
And some of the self-talk is
so
I really want to dial up my listening like tenfold. So instead of twice a day that I'm tuning in, it's like that I'm really asking about so many more things, and trusting that I actually am getting my answers. So, and actually it's funny, as I say these words, I feel my own sense of, my primary guide with me, just laughing. It's like, come on already, and I talk just like Valerie. A lot of the work that I do publicly out in the world relates to joy and giving oneself permission to play. And it's like, come on, Elaine, already.
It's funny, speaking on that, because before we went on, me and Valerie were talking, and one of the things that came up was that I realized through this journey that we're always teaching what we're learning, and then we beat ourselves up. We go, practice what you preach, Gail, And the bottom line is we're always teaching what we're learning. Sometimes, we're not even doing it on any level, and we're teaching it, right? And, we tend to call those people hypocrites or whatever. And the bottom line is that we're just teaching what we're learning, and some are learning it faster, than, but don't beat yourself up over that, because that's what's happening, right? And so the more you teach it, the better student you're becoming. You're learning it. So keep teaching it.
I absolutely agree. And a companion to that is, just, you get to keep what you give away. In other words, just give freely. And I know for me, I often get hung up just in thinking, is the form to do the particular extension or sharing the right form? And it's like, you just got to get out there and do that. Let me mute myself because this noise is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Elaine. One thing you mentioned, and I think it was that online spiritual thing that you did about magnitude, I want to come back to, because it relates to what you said earlier, Gail, when you were going through that revelation of yours, you mentioned that it was about your purpose, right? Not really being clear, not knowing your purpose. And that's something that I get a lot from the clients that I work with and the workshops that I've taught. People really are stuck in not doing anything or feeling really beating up on themselves because they don't know what their purpose is.
Right.
How does that manifest in the body, and how does that impact the ability for one to actually pay attention when we're just so, stuck on that, not knowing our purpose?
Right. Yeah, I heard somebody say, and I believe this is so true, you're living your purpose always. It can't be any other way. So because you came here with one. So everything in your life is connected to your purpose. Everything that you go through, every experience is connected. Everything's connected. So, but this I know from my own experience is that, we're powerful creators, right? Because we're born of source creator. So that makes us these powerful creators. So, I tell people, if you want to get more connected to what that purpose is specifically, if you want to have more awareness of it, it's already there. If you want to have more awareness of it, then create. And it doesn't, and Elaine touched on that. It doesn't matter what you create. Just start creating. Create something new. Get in the habit of creating something new. The artist workshop, Julia Cameron's artist workshop was a catalyst for me in bringing out that creativity. And I needed that. I really needed that exactly in the time. It was divine timing. When it walked in, it was perfect. And, just like I said before, I didn't have this awakening till I started working my creative passion, which is cooking, right? It's always been my creative passion. So if you want to get a big clue about, where your purpose lies, what vein, then go back to when you're about 10, 11, 12. What were you really passionate about then? And what stayed with you? Because that's going to give you a clue. And you start working that, you're going to start walking into the awareness of it. So, and I like to say awareness is you're not walking into your purpose, you're already in it. Yeah. It's your awareness of it that you can walk into.
I think it's interesting because I do hear a lot how often when we are aware, perhaps, we discredit it. It's too simple, it's too small, and I didn't get enough.
Small. It's all the same. It's all connected. Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether, you're like a Tony Robbins or whether, you're somebody that's running completely undercover like my mentor, right? It doesn't matter. You're affecting you are part of this tapestry of the universe, and it would totally crumble without your little piece. It doesn't matter how small it is. Everything would just cease to exist without it. That's how important your piece is.
I love that. Well, I'm gonna call in a couple people, so I'd love to hear their thoughts on what you've said so far. Kyla, if you're open and available to chat with us, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've been so far. I pick on her, but I've met her at a workshop and
yes,
she's a spitfire. So
pick on me. Honestly, I am like so into this conversation because I have really been beating myself up lately because I've been like on this health kick and really trying to, get my life together and become a real adult. And the one thing that I've really been struggling with is my fitness. And I've just really been beating myself up about it. And it's not like I don't want to be like a certain person. I just want to be the best version of myself. But I'm constantly having this battle of, oh, you didn't do this that day. And like, I beat myself up about it. And I don't know why I do that, because I eat healthy. Like, I'm a vegetarian. I try to go on walks, but if I don't do like a hard workout, like today, I was supposed to go to kickboxing, I'm like doing squats and stuff, trying to listen to the conversation. But it's like, I don't know, like, how can I stop myself from beating myself up and just kind of going with the flow and being like, okay, where can I make this up later? Maybe not even just working out, but just being healthy.
The first thing that's coming to me is, let me see if I can get it where I can actually say it. You might be feeling resistance to what you're doing because it's not the right thing. So this is, life speaks to us and we can trust it. We can always trust life. It doesn't lie. When the flow is there, we know we're in alignment with our good. And when it's not there, then what's stopping up the works, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of resistance around you wanting to do this exercise, and it could.
Gail, I think we lost your audio.
This might actually be true for a lot of women. I used to be, a hardcore exercise person. I mean, I was, did weightlifting and, bodybuilding. I did all that. I've been there. I've done all that. And one of the wonderful things that came of that is that my muscles have wonderful muscle memory. So I can do a little bit of exercise and see benefits right away. Yeah. And so what I'm getting is that you may not need the level of exercise that you're trying to put on your body. Your body's saying no. So with that being said, maybe, like I said, I don't need the strenuous exercise. And how do I prove to myself I don't need it? Because I slalom skied 61st and 60th birthday. And I had no problem doing it. That means I'm pretty strong. And I've never been softer as far as appearance goes. But obviously I'm pretty daggum strong. I wasn't even sore, right? And absolutely. I hadn't done it. When I did it at 60, I hadn't done it in 17 years. And it was like, it was nothing, right? Yeah. So think about that. Think about, am I just putting too much pressure on my body? And that's why you're resisting it. And another thing to think about is just go into meditation and ask, is there anything else you're telling me about this? So you can become an observer of it and just observe what's going on rather than being attached to and judging it, because everything is a message. So your body may be giving you a message, no, this is not quite right. And your spirit may be knocking on your door saying, hey, there's something running in the background that you're not aware of. So look at those two things.
Thank you so much, because I definitely will. I have very good muscle memory too. And I've noticed I'll work out one time and then I'm like, oh, I don't have to work out for 3 years now because I just feel so good. But I
love yoga too for a workout. It's wonderful. So my workout is yoga, and I have a routine I go through every morning where I love on my body and I wake up my body. And I say all along the way while I'm doing this, thank you for your perfect service. Thank you for your perfect service. I knock on my head and I knock on my, and I just go, our lymph system starts here. So I start here and I come down my neck. Tarzan, and I have a lymph system here. So I knock on this, and I know when I'm done it enough because I get a breath. So pay attention to your breath. What happens when you're finished with something. When I'm clearing something with people, I get a deep breath. When I know that I'm getting the right answer, I'll vibrate and I get a deep breath. When I'm doing this and it's enough, I get a deep breath. So pay attention to your breath because it tells you things. And so I do that, and I do a few expansive squats, and I do some yoga, and I do some walking, and that's it. And I'm fit.
I'm going to do exactly that.
Yeah.
Yoga, squats, and walking.
How old are you now?
I am actually going to be 21 on March 13th.
Oh, wow.
Woo-woo.
Oh, you're
Yep.
just, yeah. And I'm also, I was an avid tennis player. So you know, at 21, you're probably going to want to have a little cardio thrown in there.
I actually used to play soccer, and then I cheered for a bit. So,
Right. I have to do things I enjoy too for exercise. I can't just go, and I get a lot less in the winter because I love being outside. I love exercising outside. So
yeah, I do not like the cold or being wet, so it's been very difficult lately.
okay, so
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyla.
thank you.
Absolutely.
I think you brought up something really interesting, because I can absolutely see how in this culture we do spend a lot of time focused on the shoulds, the kind of workout we should have, the kind of food we should eat, the way in which we should approach it. And what I'm hearing from you, Gail, is that so much has to do with us just, we pay attention to what our body's actually telling us. Our body will indicate what we need, what it needs.
Right.
That's
Just listen.
fascinating. Yeah.
Life is telling you something.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have time probably for another 2 questions. If anyone else has a question, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and I'll be happy to call on you. Heather, join us, Heather.
Hey, thanks, Gail, for this interesting information.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm so interested in the body-mind connection and that afferent body-to-mind communication. And you've been talking about listening to your body and the signals. And so when you said that left is receiving and right is releasing, is that the same dynamic for everyone, or do different people receive?
You know, I'm not sure about that. You know, that I will tell you that it's been right for a lot of, I haven't found an exception yet. That doesn't mean there's not one. Okay.
That's great information. Thank
you.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. Right. Who else? Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. I will also make a comment recently, and this is kind of going back to what Kyla talked about with exercise. So about 15 years ago, I became a black belt in Taekwondo and loved it. And I was teaching classes, and the higher up you go, the more you influence and lead courses with the other students. And I did competitions. I mean, I was probably in the best physical shape I'd ever been in my life. I felt super strong, and I really loved the people. And I remember, because of some my schedule, I left. I wasn't able to practice or train anymore, so I left Taekwondo and I did other things. About 4 or 5 months ago, I reconnected with my grandmaster who was teaching the classes, and I was like, oh, I have to come back. And so I started going back to Taekwondo. And physically, I did pretty okay, considering so much time had passed. But mentally, not so much. I found myself, it was hard to remember the forms that I'd learned. And I wasn't even motivated sometimes to actually take the time to relearn them. Really tough showing up as a black belt and not knowing all the things that one must know and also model for the other students. And it became so uncomfortable, like you were talking about. I noticed a resistance to actually embracing it, that I had a conversation with my grandmaster, and I mentioned to him, I said, look, I love the art, I love the people. I just don't think I'm in this space anymore where this is what I need. And I felt guilty for a little bit, and I tried so hard because I didn't want to let him down. But as soon as I walked out of that conversation, I'm glad I had it, because I would have probably ghosted. In a time in my life, I would have been like, I don't have to go back. I'm busy, right? But I really wanted to have the conversation and close that chapter. And I had that breath. I was like,
you know, and let me say this too, while we were talking about this, is that sometimes resistance is something that you need to go towards. So there's a, you know, and sometimes the discernment of all this is a little tricky, right? But if something, and how can you know if resistance is something that you want to walk towards? There's a fear factor involved. So, and you know what? I've never said this before, so this is coming through me right now. So, which is interesting. Okay. So to discern the difference, are you fearful about it? Is it tweaking you in any way? Is what you're resistant to bringing up any anger or resentment, or because all those are children of fear, see? So you can look at that, or is a resistant, if you can't find anything like that and it's not tweaking you somewhere, again, you can go back to that breath thing. It's not tweaking you somewhere, then, it's probably life's way of saying, no, this is not right. This is not on your path right now. Right.
Okay.
But
let me make sure I got what you're saying.
Search the fear.
It starts with fear, you said?
Look and see if there's any fear involved with the resistance, right?
Okay. So, for example, if there's something that I'm not wanting to confront, if I'm not willing to have a conversation,
that means you want to run towards it. Let's say, what is the speaking club that you did?
Toastmasters.
Toastmasters. Let's say you're thinking about going to Toastmasters and doing that, but it's causing all kinds of anxiety and fear. Okay, that is something you run towards. Right. But, like, was it Kyla that was talking about the exercise where, that I don't get that's fear-based. I get that it's just, like I said, spirit. I just heard that right away. What that was about. That was about, hey, you don't need all that. Right. So there's a way to discern it. And that's feeling your body. Feel if you feel fearful or anxious or, anything coming up that's a child of fear, resentment.
I get what you're saying. I think what I'm getting is that resistance that has us avoid certain things, that avoidance that we're experiencing is actually something that we need to walk into, to release.
Right.
More we back away from something that we're fearful of, the greater the level of resistance becomes.
Right, and it's going to keep knocking. It's going to keep coming until you actually just walk towards it. But that's different than just the universe telling you, hey, this is not in the flow of your life right now. Right, that's different. You don't feel all that anxiety.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Gail, thank you so very much. It's been, I think, a very enlightening conversation. Please raise your hand by pressing *9 or hit the hand icon if something in the conversation today has touched, moved, or inspired you. Go ahead and raise your hand so we give confirmation. Or you can write in the chat yes or yay me or something. Good. Yes, *9 if you want to raise your hand. Thank you. Good stuff, Kyla. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so as we wrap up, we got a yes from Catherine. Good. Awesome. To wrap up, just first of all, I want to acknowledge you, Gail, for taking time to share your heart with us today. I know this was we just put this together in the last couple of days of we're going to have this conversation, and your openness and your vulnerability, I think, really created that connection that I so crave from this time together with this group of listeners. And I can't wait for the rest of you to share this message, not only with your community and your life, but also just deepen it. Like really, if you need to go back and listen to this recording and find out some of those moments of truth for you, right? You don't have to believe anything that we say. Check it out for yourself. If it feels right, if it resonates, then embrace it. Those of you that want to get in contact with Gail in the future, I placed her website on the chat. It's www.foodrevelation.com. Or you can email me at valerie@valeriehope.com for her contact information. And I'll send you her email address so you can communicate with her directly. But I'm so excited to have had you here, Gail. I think you did a wonderful job in sharing your heart with us, like I said. And I also want to thank Sandy. She's no longer on the call, but just don't want to take for granted that she's just a wonderful storyteller. So if you want to get in contact with Sandy, also let me know. I'll be happy to share that information. Do not hesitate to share on social media that you've been a part of this call. Let them know. I will be sharing the recording with everyone that registered through Zoom. As soon as that recording is ready, I'll send that to you so that you can watch it again, listen to it again, make it even deeper. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. We'll have another call, another conversation, February 19th. We'll continue talking about partnerships, specifically those that related to your personal board of directors and how to get the supporters on that board of directors that you need in order to make your dreams and your vision come true. All right, so thank you all so much for participating and sharing our time today. Have a wonderful week. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's. Thanks, everyone.